Success! Oh, hi. I'm glad you're here. Glad to be with you. Um, 1995. 1995? What, I turned 12? I turned 12. I turned 12 in 1995, and I saw some movies that were very influential and impactful. And so I'm going to talk about the most influential and impactful ones of 1995. I'm just going to refer to my notes here and go through them as quickly as possible because, let's not, why, who cares? Excuse me. Um, excuse me. What's up for? Well, we got some June. No, let's look at May. In May, on May 26th of 1995, Casper, the Friendly Ghost, the live action film Casper, that was revolutionary for its time with its computer animation, computer generated effect, CGI, and starred Bill Pullman and Christina Ricci. Great film. Love it. Classic. Ghostbuster cameo, for goodness sake, with a mustache. Never thought I'd see Ray with a mustache. Anyway, very influential film at that age, but at a much later age, about 11 years ago, just over 11 years ago, I met someone, a young lady, and it was like her favorite film. And she loved it so much, and she kept referencing it, and then she was like obsessed with me and gave me the attention that I needed at the time. And I was trickeried into all kinds of things. And I remember the first night I let her stay the night at my house. But I don't rush things myself. So we were just lying together in bed. And she whispered to me, "Can I keep you?" Red flag. It's like, whoa, a little too soon to be wanting to keep me. But she was quoting Casper. I always thought she was quoting Peter Pan. But she was quoting Casper. That woman is the mother of my son, so I guess I could give Casper partial credit for my son existing. Not as much as like Tron, but we'll get there. Oh, we'll get there. Anywho, so just mentioning Casper, in June, there's movies coming out like right around when I was born in June of 95. On June 9th, Congo. I'm going to mention Congo because Congo was a classic, and I always liked Congo. And a friend of mine and I, years ago, when I worked at Chili's, we would always reference Congo. It would be very funny. Amy, hungry, jungle, drink, jungle, drink. Ooh, that's a good idea. Jungle, drink, Amy, hungry. Crack this up. It's a sign. It's a gorilla doing sign language. Good times. But I also, around that time, when I was in Chili's and I ended up in jail for 8 days? 7 days? Something like that. I did a lot of reading to pass the time, and one of the books I was able to get my hands on was Congo. So I'd seen the movie, and then I read the book, and the book that's when I discovered that they were very similar to one another, and then it gave me that very, I could picture the movie while reading the book, and then when I saw the movie after reading the book, I was like, oh yeah, this is just like reading the book. And then I recently saw another movie that gave me vibes of like reading a book, and it turned out to be based on the book. Palmetto, by the way, starring Chloe Sevigny, fantastic film. We'll talk about that later. So Congo is a good time. Moving on. June 30th of 95. Judge Dredd, the original Judge Dredd, not Dredd with Carl Urban or whatever his name is, but Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. Just give me something to drink. And my friend at the time said, you got to come over to my house and you got to see this part in this movie. It was always this part that he wanted, so we could have an inside joke kind of thing that he thought was funny. So we didn't really watch Judge Dredd. I think we eventually watched the movie. But first and foremost, he wanted to show me this part where they show him the footage of Judge Dredd getting framed. Spoiler alert, They frame him for like murdering a bunch of people, but they show the footage and it's like he comes in the room with his gun, you know, drawn, and then his boss is like, Dredd, no! And then gets all capped up, and it just cracked us up for some reason, so we always quoted that. Dredd, no! If you ever see Judge Dredd, I'm referencing that part where he says, Dredd, no! And then gets shot. It was funny to us. Oh, that's why. I gotta keep track. You know, let's cross out the Casper, let's cross out the Congo, let's cross out the Dredd, and then next up, in August of 95, Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat film, was the most amazing film ever made when it came out in 1995, especially to my 12-year-old mind. I was so excited to see it. I was obsessed with this. Oh my gosh, I was obsessed with, I bought the soundtrack on tape. I still know every single one of those songs by heart. And they get in my head every once in a while. Not just the main one that everyone knows. Yeah, great. I would listen to that over and over and over and over and over and over and over on repeat. And this was cassette tape, so I had to rewind it every time. But I know every song on that side. Oh, such a great, fantastic soundtrack. The original Mortal Kombat soundtrack, that is a fantastic soundtrack that I need to add to my soundtrack playlist right now, actually. Yeah, so I was obsessed with the soundtrack, and I wanted to see the movie so bad. But my mother was like, no, you can't see that movie. Absolutely not. I'm not giving you money for that movie. I'm not gonna take you to that movie. It was PG-13, but she was not having it. A movie about people fighting to the death? I don't think so. I wasn't sheltered, but as close as they could get. Somehow I went because we lived right by a mall, so I went to the mall. I don't know what I told them. I was probably like, I'm gonna go do this, or I'm gonna go do that, or I got some allowance for who knows what that I told them I spent on something, who knows. But I went and saw that movie by myself. I bought myself a ticket and I watched Mortal Kombat. I said, I don't care what you think, Mom, I'm gonna lie to you, and you're never gonna know that I saw it, but I'm gonna see it. And boy did I see it, and I saw it again and again. And I absolutely loved it. And I was obsessed with that movie, and Sub-Zero was my favorite. And oh my gosh, I could go on and on about Mortal Kombat. But the thing was, so not just to get the sound, I have a core memory of watching the Oscars. It's funny, I just watched the Oscars last night. I'm currently still celebrating, as you might be able to see. But I do have a memory of watching the Oscars with my father one year, and I was so obsessed with the soundtrack, I could not stop it, that every commercial break, which would last roughly 4 minutes, I would run upstairs to my room, rewind my tape. Thank goodness it was the first song on the soundtrack, on the cassette tape, so I just had to rewind it till it stopped. I didn't have to, find it. Every commercial break, I went upstairs and listened to that song. Test your might. Yeah. I was so upset. That was like my very first ever in my life, I'm so freaking pumped I could punch a hole in the wall song that I had to listen to 100 million gajillion times. Now I've got plenty of Korn songs to fill that hole. Or Muse these days. But anywho, so Mortal Kombat was just, oh yeah. So then there's another core memory where my mother took me to breakfast, like brunch. They kept on calling it brunch and it was on a Sunday. I thought brunch was like a Sunday thing, like breakfast that you have on Sunday after church or something. I don't know why. Eventually I figured out what brunch really was. But we went to this restaurant, vivid core memory. And she's with her two friends and this and that, and I'm just a kid. I'm like the fifth wheel. But somehow movies came up in conversation, and they started asking each other, what's your favorite movie? Not what's your favorite scary movie, but that was a good one too. What's your favorite movie? And then they asked me, hey, what's your favorite movie? My mom's friends asked me this, so I was honest. And I said, Mortal Kombat. And in a way, I think that was me trying to let my mother know, admit, hey, just so you know, deal with it, because I knew that she couldn't, get too upset because her friends are there. Eh? But that didn't register with my mother. She just immediately laughed and then goes on to tell her friends, oh my goodness, he's going to say that's his favorite movie and he hasn't even seen it. He's been so obsessed with wanting to see that, but I won't let him. oh my gosh, Paul, why would you say that's your favorite movie when you haven't even seen it? And I just internally laughed and laughed and was like, yeah, it's my favorite movie, even though I haven't. So that's like my first memory of my favorite movie. Like the first time someone said, what's your favorite movie? My answer was Mortal Kombat. And that stayed my answer for at least maybe a year or two till special editions came out, maybe? Anyway. No, probably till 99. I love the special editions and all, but I didn't become truly obsessed with Star Wars till episode 1. We'll get there. So you got Mortal Kombat. 9, you got 7. 7 is a fantastic film that I didn't see then. I didn't see 7 until I was in like high school, so it was probably a good maybe 4 or 5 years later. And my friend showed it to me. You've never seen 7? So he showed it to me. And back then, Kevin Spacey was like the thing. So when he showed up, it was like mind blowing. It was like my first ever like cameo of you didn't know that this actor's in the movie and they're playing a really cool, significant role. That's a big surprise at the end. Blew my mind. Love that movie. 7 is one of my favorite movies of all time. 7 is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. But also, I vividly remember watching the movie 7 while putting together my son's crib before he was born. And there was a moment in 7 that I always referred to because I always wanted to be a father. It was my only dream. When I was in elementary school, I would tell people, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say, I don't care. I don't care if I'm working at McDonald's. All I want when I grow up is to come home to a family and be a father. I want to raise a child. Like I knew that from elementary school. But then eventually with my life experiences that you may have seen in other videos, and I will definitely be covering this part in my next video this week, I gave up on that dream. I thought that was never going to happen. That ship has sailed. I'm never going to have a kid. And when after Can I Keep You happened, this young lady ended up getting pregnant. It was a dream come true. But I always thought, like I never tried, even though I wanted a kid, I never tried to have a kid. Because my mindset was always from 7 when she has that conversation with Morgan Freeman. And Gwyneth Paltrow is telling him, hey, I'm pregnant. And she's devastated about it. And he's like, well, I thought, isn't that happy news? And she's like, no, I can't bring a child into this sick, sad world. And I always had that mindset mixed with, I don't want to have a child if I can't provide for them at least what my parents provided me. I mean, we weren't rich, but we weren't poor. We were probably middle class. So everything I ever wanted, I was able to be provided with my parents. Clothing, food, shelter, toys, video games, cable, what have you. And I knew that I would never be able to provide that for a child, so I never intended to have a child. And then when I ended up having a child that was unplanned, nothing wrong with that, I was watching this movie Building the Crib, and then there comes that part. And there was nothing I could do about it now. But I remember Morgan Freeman's response to her concern of I can't give this child what they deserve and they're going to be stuck in this horrific world, how dare I. He just, the line that sticks with me is if I was in your position, because he says, because she's contemplating whether or not to keep it, and he says, I can't tell you whether or not, to keep it or not. I could just say that if you do decide to keep it, I personally would spoil the hell out of him. So that's pretty much what I do with my son. He has enough to deal with in this world and with his mother. I do my best to just not literally spoil him or let him do whatever he wants. I'm raising a good kid, thank goodness. But I try to at least let him be a kid. Try to keep all the stress I can off of him because He's going to have enough to deal with when he's older, and he's already got enough BS to go through as a 10-year-old. So Seven had a strong impact on me for many different reasons. Moving on. November, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. I'm just going to say that because I didn't get to see the first one in theaters, and then when the second one came out in theaters, I had a friend, classmate at the time, more of an acquaintance. We didn't really hang out outside of a school at that point, but was like, hey, you want to go see this movie? I'm going to go see this movie. And I was like, what movie are you going to go see? And they were like, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. Oh my gosh, you remind me of Jim Carrey. And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally do want to see that because I love the first Ace Ventura and I didn't get to see it in theaters and I would love to see that in theaters. And they were like, oh my gosh, let's go. And so then we went and we saw Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls in theaters, and I remember it very vividly, and it was fun. I love that movie. Holds up to the original. Okay, so also December, Christmas of '95, the movie Four Rooms came out. I wasn't familiar with it at the time and didn't see it until a few years later. Once I started getting into Quentin Tarantino and then discovered that Four Rooms was a film about four stories where the guy from Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, who's now Abomination in the MCU. What's his name? You know who I'm talking about. Anyway. My gosh. I'm brain farting his name, so deal with it. Anyway, he played the bellboy, and it was kind of like a spin on Jerry Lewis's Bellboy, where he doesn't talk that whole movie. And I ended up watching that movie with my father once when I was younger. Great experience. I saw two Jerry Lewis movies with my father on television once. The Bellboy and Nutty Professor. What'll it be? Which was also quoted by Jim Carrey in the movie Earth Girls Are Easy. Did I talk about that one already? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to look at it. I'm getting sidetracked. The point being, Four Rooms was a movie with what's his name? I almost said Jeffrey Rush. That can't be right. You know what I'm saying. He was Mr. Orange in Reservoir Dogs and Pumpkin in Pulp Fiction and his Abomination in... It's just going to drive me nuts. It's like on the tip of my brain. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He played a bellboy in Four Rooms, but Four Rooms was about a bellboy visiting four different rooms in a night, and each room was its own story, directed and written by a different director. And the last one was written and directed by Quentin Tarantino that also features Quentin Tarantino. And once I found that out, I became obsessed with the movie. I wanted the movie and I got the movie. But then when I really wanted to order it, it just reminds me of this core memory when I was married, not to my baby mama, but to my ex-wife. I said it before and I'll say it again. Thank goodness I didn't have a kid with my ex-wife, and thank goodness I didn't marry my baby mama. But when I was married to my ex-wife at the time, there was a Christmas that came up. My parents were out of town. We were staying in their room. She stayed at our house the whole time. Sorry, Mom and Dad, but it's true. And I ordered on the internet. This was like before eBay. I don't know where I ordered it. I was just able to order things. Maybe it was like the early days. No, it wasn't eBay. It was the early days of ordering things on the internet. So I ordered a bunch of movies, DVDs that I could get cheap because I got them on the internet and then had them delivered. And I thought it would be a good idea to give her a Christmas present of just a bunch of random movies that I wanted to watch with her. So, one of those scenarios where like, this is for you, but it's really for me. Yeah, I learned a valuable lesson when she didn't really appreciate those gifts. She humored me and watched the movies with me, but I later found out that she was like, thanks a lot for nothing because you just got me movies that you wanted to watch, and that's not really a gift, which is true. But one of them was Four Rooms, another one was Inspector Gadget, and another one was Prince of Egypt, but it really was me just like, look, I got movies for us to watch. Merry Christmas! You live and learn. I made some mistakes, but Four Rooms was still a great movie, and it's still a great movie. Oh, man, his name is almost... It doesn't matter. So, yeah, that's why I'm mentioning Four Rooms. Now, just two more left to talk about. The next movie came out the day after my freaking birthday, and this is before they did Thursday night showings, because before Thursday night showings, there was midnight showings, where you couldn't see the movie until it was officially midnight, and that didn't start until, like, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, maybe even Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. But it wasn't until the late 90s, early 2000s that they started doing midnight showings. So back then, you had to wait till that Friday to see a movie, so it came out the day after my birthday. But Batman Forever, I was so obsessed with seeing. I remember when they announced Batman... I learned about Batman Forever when my mother was taking me to school in the car, and on the radio, they were given the news... And they were like, hey, they're making a new Batman film. And I'm like, what? A new Batman film? And they're like, yeah, but this one is going to be directed by Joel Schumacher. I don't know who that was at the time, but they were like, this one, because I was obsessed with the cartoon at the time. And they were announcing the cast. And they're like, this one is going to have Two-Face and the Riddler. And that was all I wanted at the time because I loved that cartoon. And I was like, I want Two-Face and Riddler. That's awesome. And they were like, but Jim Carrey's going to play the Riddler. And I was like, what? So I was obsessed with seeing this movie. And I got to see this movie and I saw it on opening day. And I love it. It is still to this day my favorite Batman film. Yeah, Batman Forever is my favorite Batman film. Jim Carrey is the best Riddler, and Tommy Lee Jones is the best Two-Face. I love that movie, still to this day, unironically. My favorite Batman of all time is Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer is my Batman. Okay? But the vivid core memory I have of this movie, which is a mistake that I've rarely made since and would never make to this extent again. I finally got to see this movie after being so excited about it for at least, a couple years. And there I am the day after my birthday watching this movie in theaters finally, and had a little too much to drink. Not like that, but I had too much soda during the film, and I had to pee. Probably top 2, top 3 most I've ever had to pee in my life. But I don't know how people do it. I do crew screenings all the time for my crew, and they be getting up once or twice every single film to go to the bathroom. Why can't people, and those are hour and a half movies. People are always like, oh, this movie's 3 hours long, when do we go to the bathroom? You don't. You either hold it, or you don't drink so much. Can people not control their bladders? When I'm at home, I don't know about you, but when I'm at home, I don't have to pee every hour and a half. Maybe 2-3 hours tops. But usually it's more like 4 or 5. When I'm at work, I go 8 to 10 hour shifts without peeing once. Anywho, but this particular instance, I really had to pee. And it was getting near it was the third act of the film, and I was not going to miss a thing, because I would rather piss myself than miss a moment of a movie. If you miss a moment of a movie, there's no point in finishing it. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what happened while you were gone if you missed an important plot point. And you shouldn't be whispering with your friends, oh, I don't know what I missed. Oh, no. You sit down, you watch the movie from beginning to end, period, the end. If you can't do that, then you watch it at home and you pause it and then go pee. So I held that pee, and I had to pee like there was no tomorrow, and I just will never forget that it distracted me and made me so uncomfortable the rest of the film that I didn't enjoy the ending as much as I should have. Not that I didn't like it, but I just was like, I just had to pee. So I very rarely make that mistake when going to the movies, and I've never had to that extent. But I never, ever, 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 ever leave a movie to go to the bathroom. That's insane to me. You missed something. We just watched The Room last week, and I had a crew member, yeah, I can't handle it anymore. So we went to the bathroom. Missed a great, hilarious scene with classic dialogue. And as soon as he gets back from the bathroom, sex scene number 3. Yeah, you should have waited 2 freaking minutes, then gone to the bathroom during the sex scene. You doofus. Don't go to the bathroom. Hold it. Or don't drink so much damn soda. I don't even drink soda and eat snacks at the movies. Why do people sit there? I'm eating a movie. I'm watching a movie. I better eat stuffed popcorn all over myself and drink the soda. No, just sit down and watch a freaking movie. You don't have to constantly be consuming things. Anyway, so that was gonna be the most influential film for that reason and those memories. But I went ahead and gave it to this one instead. The most influential, impactful film that I saw in 1995 was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. It's pretty simple. I was obsessed with the show from the moment it aired, up until season 2 and 3 when they introduced Lord Zed, and I became more obsessed, especially with articles from TV Guide and the premiere in prime time for the introduction of Lord Zed. I was obsessed with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I have since then gone to plenty of Comic Cons and met most of the Power Rangers, especially the OGs, and all but one that were the Power Rangers in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. I've met all of them but one. And that one was the Yellow Ranger at the time. I'll get around to it. I have met on numerous occasions the late Jason David Frank. I won't go into that. But anyway, I love the Power Rangers and the movie. The movie blew my freaking mind. It upped the ante so much. That movie still holds up. I could watch the original 1995 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, any day of the week. I literally have a pin from 1995, like a button, a promotional thing for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, on my work jacket that I wear every day, to this day. But it was also, the reason it takes the cake is it was the first movie I ever saw an early screening of. And back then they would do this promotional thing of a couple weeks before the movie was actually coming out. If you come down to the newspaper place or to this location, you can pick up free tickets for an early screening of this movie. For free. Just come and get them. It's just the only catch is it's first come, first served. There's limited seating. We're giving out all kinds of tickets, but there's limited seating. So you had to get your ticket, and then you had to get there in time. Boy, were we lucky, because I chose my +1 to be my best friend, and his mother was completely unreliable, and so was he. So I'm sitting there waiting, because they were my ride, and I couldn't get there any other way. And I'm waiting, and the time for the movie to start is approaching and approaching. Luckily, we didn't run out of seating by the time we got there, but I did miss the beginning of the film. So it was my first early screening, and probably one of the only films I have ever missed the beginning of. We arrived right during the rollerblading part, so we didn't miss much. We missed the skydiving and the busting open of Ivan Ooze. And then, of course, I eventually watched this movie again and again and again and again in theaters. But it was very impactful that it was the first early screening I saw. I got all the Happy Meal toys. I still have the Happy Meal toys, including the communicator, including the Morphin thing with the different double-sided power coins. I was all about the Black Ranger. I was down to be a frog. The CG in it was crazy. I ended up going to a movie theater in 1995 with my dad and brother to see this movie. Well, no, to see a movie. And it was one of those random things where my dad said, let's go see a movie. So we just went to the theater. What's starting? See all the options. I talked them into watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. And they did. With me. 25 years later, I went to the new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie with those same people. And not only that, but 25 years later, I ended up working as a manager of that very same movie theater where we saw Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. At the time, it was a brand new theater, and it has since, in the last 3 years after a pandemic, been closed. But luckily, I'm still a manager at the other theater where I've seen many of these other movies that I have been talking about. So talk about influential in full circle. I work there now. As a manager, it is my career. But I saw movies there. I grew up in these theaters seeing these movies, including Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where I talked my brother and dad going. And then on my dad's birthday back in 2017, 18, whatever it was, 16, whenever that last one came out, I went and saw it with my father and both my brothers on my dad's birthday. Go Power Rangers. Okie dokie.